So you're growing your 3D printing business, and now you're looking to outsource some of the production because you don't really want to be running a larger print farm in your garage and having to build both a factory and fulfillment and design products and take care of customers and pay your taxes and understand what Etsy's doing this week. You just want to outsource some of it. But here are some things to be aware of when launching a new product with a print farm and what to kind of do in order to verify it. So the very first thing to do is check, is the print farm large enough for your project? This comes up a lot. Industrial clients, growing consumer brands, anybody launching a new item, you need to ensure that the print farm is able to meet the demand of what you have. Do they have enough machines around? A lot of people get confused by this because there's kind of a vision that, 10 bamboo labs in a space can produce a lot of parts. But that's not necessarily true because they don't run 24/7. And there's still a limitation there because 1,000 orders of any appreciable size type of item like this cannot be produced very quickly with just a few machines on a shelf there. So you have to make sure that the printing service is able to scale up to grow what you have and is actually able to meet that demand. An easy way to calculate this is just look at the machine, how long it takes to print the part, how many machines there are, and then verify what are like these cycles of time of use there. So like at Slant 3D, we work 16 hours a day keeping machines operational. And then we also have a production system which manages flow to make sure that they're optimized to even print overnight without having to print finish at like midnight and then have 6 hours of dead time. So there's very heavy utilization of machines so that we can knock out parts as quickly as possible. We also have our main factory spec'd out for 3,000 machines. So there's just a lot of scale there. But when choosing any other type of print farm and stuff, it's really important to know how many machines do they have. If they don't have many machines, then the question becomes how quickly can they scale? And this is a conversation to have really closely with that partner because you want to ensure that they're making enough money to where they can purchase more machines in order to grow with you. Otherwise, they end up keeping their 10 machines, letting orders get further and further behind, and you're needing orders to accelerate, but they're not purchasing additional equipment to get knocked out. And this also goes the opposite direction of, do you have enough demand to justify them purchasing more machines for the long term? Because it's not necessarily cheap to spend several $1,000s for more machinery in order to produce your parts if next week you're not going to have any more orders through. This is like the danger with pre-orders, in that there can be this big old surge, everybody gets all ramped up, but then there's no orders after that surge. So be aware of that. Do they have enough machines already? If they don't, are they able to scale up as your demand scales up? Those are really critical to understand to make sure that you have a partner that's able to do what you need them to do. Another thing to look at with partners is make sure they have the tools that are useful to you. Try out their services, mess with them. With a lot of print on demand, people will hire a print farm and you basically have to send them like a CSV file of orders each day, and they will almost manually match them up and print them out. And there's not really a problem with this because, again, you're outsourcing the work, but it can be cumbersome. They might have an option to where you can auto-upload files. Are those files protected? There's all these things to be aware of, and it just does turn into a bunch of work and also introduces a lot of errors because if people are copy and pasting addresses around, then you have the opportunity for the wrong address to be pasted in or the wrong order to be attributed. So do they have systems in place to where you can reliably submit stuff through there? Again, it's like 3D's case, we have things like the Shopify and the Etsy plugin that you just add to your store, and then when an order comes through, it is sent to us and we automatically have it in there, machine fires up, and it has tracking all the way through there. So these are things to be aware of. Does the service that you're working with have those types of tools that are reliable to make sure that you're getting what you need? The next thing that's really very basic, but people often miss, does the service have the correct machines? What are you making and how are you making it? 3D printing is a very broad group of things. There's SLS, there's powder-based, there's different types of materials, there's resin, there's FDM. At Slant 3D, we only do FDM. We're only going to do FDM. If you're making resin D&D miniatures, there's not a lot of value in starting the process because we're just not going to be able to make them for you. So make sure that you have a service that's actually able to do what you need it to do and has the machines that you need to get it done with. The next thing to check out, how long has that organization been in business? Generally, it's great to use brand new startups who have been around for a year because they're generally cheap, but whereas the older guys are generally more expensive. But you also kind of get what you pay for because the new startups may not necessarily know how to deal with your situation, may not be as proven out as what you would normally have. They are very often much cheaper, But you also have to realize that they might not be in business next year. Businesses, about 50% of them go out of business in the first year, and then another 50% the year after that, and so on, because most startups and most new companies end up failing. It's a very simple test for this is generally, if however long a company has been around, they will generally continue to be around for that much longer. It's a kind of a general rule about the world. If something's been around for 5 years, it'll probably be around for 5 years more. If it's only been around for 1 year, there's a high probability that it'll only be around for 1 year or more. And that's fine if you want to switch between different services. But as in the 3D printing industry, as services rise and fall and continue to, we've only been around for like 10 years in any sort of serious way. There's a lot of churn, and it's really indicative right now. So make sure that the organization you've been around is around. For our case, Slant 3D has been around for over 5 years, so we're feeling fairly confident that we can stick around for another 5 years. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of the service itself, the things you want to look at are how fast do they ship? Do they ship in 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, whatever it happens to be? So on our sites, we always define this for our customers. There's FAQs that answer this and that kind of stuff, or you can call us up and get the answer or send an email, whatever it happens to be. But generally, a POD order at Slant 3D ships in 2 to 5 business days. Generally, we're on the lower end of that, but the 5 days is there for during Christmas when everybody's coming through in order to set expectations reasonably. Now, of course, we're trying to accelerate that, and there might be people who are able to ship faster who just don't have as much utilization as we do. So that's always something to be considered. How quickly can they ship it out? Are they going to take off bank holidays? Are they going to take off Christmas and Thanksgiving? If an order comes in the day before Thanksgiving, is it going to ship on Black Friday or is it going to ship the day after? Those are the things to be aware of to find out if your orders are going to take weeks, days, months, years, who knows, whatever it happens to be. So setting up those expectations and running test prints to make sure that they're there is important. Also, by the way, make sure there's a way to get test prints. There's prototyping apps that like we have, call up whatever supplier you might use and make sure they send you some samples. This is important, but also make sure that you're patient with those because with 3D printing, there's so much breadth of things that come through, there can be variations. And if you have a very specific set of tuning and features for your product, you need to make sure to communicate those clearly so that the customer knows or the supplier knows how to hit those marks. So in our like POD platform, we require 25% infill, 0.2 layer height, so on and so forth. That might not work for what you have. So just make sure that the expectations are clear when you're going in, that it won't always necessarily be something fully bespoke. Or maybe it is, but if you do fully bespoke, then you need to allow time to go through the process of matching settings, shipping some parts back and forth, doing verification, sample verification. All that stuff is important if you're going to go with the POD route with some supplier. And of course, you want to look at the actual cost of the service itself. Are they cheap? Are they expensive? These are very basic things right here. Look at a few others, compare them, do the pros and cons. They're more expensive, but these guys are easier. This is faster, but that's cheaper, whatever it happens to be. See what is right for your business because no one is going to be one size fits all. That's impossible to do, but find somebody that fits what you're trying to do the closest and then potentially readjust a little bit for them. Look at the cost of shipping. Look how long they're going to take to ship based on where they are. For example, Slant 3D is in Idaho. We're very quick to get parts to the West Coast, but there could be another day of shipping time to get to the East Coast. Those are things to be concerned about and to take into consideration. Something else, when talking to these suppliers and vetting them, check on their suppliers. Where do you get filament? Where does it come from? Are the colors consistent? Many smaller 3D print services will very often end up ordering stuff off of Amazon or around or are constantly swapping suppliers because they have to because one supplier disappears or goes out of business or whatever else it was. This is really important because it can change what your material is over time. Colors can transition and move and shift. And to be fair, the 3D printing industry is just really volatile, so this isn't always avoidable. But have a way, make sure your supplier is aware of this concern and knows how to deal with it. Because you don't want to go from pure cold white to some kind of warm white as they switch from whatever supplier to the other supplier. So know what their material supply chain is. Again, here at Slant 3D, we work with many suppliers that we've worked with for years in order to keep them stable, but then we also produce material internally in order to make sure that black is always black and is always the same black for whatever it is that we're doing. This is really, really important because the 3D printing industry has been so Wild West that individual small spools will very often vary from one spool to the next because a supplier can get away with that when selling a simple spool, but can't get away with it when selling a pallet of spools. And we've been bit by this many times to understand how important it is. All right, hopefully that was useful to you all. Yes, when vetting a print farm, there's all the basics around cost, shipping time, processing time, that kind of thing. But then there's more hidden and more subtle things to be aware of, like how long have they been in business? Where are they located geographically? Do they have tools and resources to make your job easier, or is it going to be very manual? These are things that can be overlooked when first bringing on a 3D printing supplier for your print-on-demand store, but are still very, very important. But hopefully that all helps you out. Have a great day, everybody.